There's this quiet thought a lot of us carry around. I should record my life story someday. And maybe other people also mention that to you. You should write your story down. But someday keeps getting pushed further away. We tell ourselves we'll do it when we have more time, when things are calmer, when we know what actually matters to say. Or we assume recording our story means writing a memoir, sitting down for months, or somehow getting it just right.
Right. And that's never going to happen. So,
No.
um, and for many people, especially those living with grief, that thought can really carry something heavier. The realization that there are questions we didn't ask, right? Or stories we didn't hear,
Hmm.
moments we thought we had more time to talk about.
That's right.
So, what if the problem isn't that we waited too long? What if the problem is that we've misunderstood what recording a life story really is?
Well, today we're going to be talking about how to record your life story in a way that isn't overwhelming and it isn't performative and it doesn't require you to capture everything. And this is going to be about how to create a legacy that goes far beyond a will or a checklist because legacy isn't about completeness,
That's
it's
right.
about connection.
Yeah.
And sometimes the smallest stories are the ones that will stay with us the longest.
Very good. So stick with us and welcome to this episode of End of Life Conversations. Welcome back, friends. I'm the Reverend Wakil David Matthews, and today we are happy to meet Kurt Meinhold. Kurt is founder of LilyList, a platform designed to help individuals capture their life stories and create lasting legacies, something we talk about a lot on this program. His career is built on a foundation of human connection, storytelling, and practical support, bridging technology with deeply personal experiences.
Hello, and I am the Reverend Mother Ana Luisa Armendariz. Kurt tells us that Lily List is a true passion project, shaped by a lifetime of experiences and insights. Growing up in environments where loss was part of life, Kurt recognized the profound impact of preserving memories and sharing life stories. This understanding led him to conceptualize Lily List not just another tech solution, but as a means of fostering connection, reflection, and legacy. What began as a simple idea, creating lists to support end of life planning, has evolved into a platform for capturing the stories that define us. So excited to talk to you today, Kurt.
Yeah, such
I
a meaningful
appreciate it.
thing to be
I'm
working
happy
on.
to be here.
Yeah. Well, we always begin by asking when you first became aware of death in your life.
Early on, I don't remember the exact age. I do remember one of the first times my father kind of stopping me before I was going outside to play and saying, you know, your grandmother died. And I didn't quite know what that meant, but I sort of could tell it was upsetting to him. And you know, I was 6, maybe 7. And so I just kind of stood there and for a little a little bit and said, "Okay, can I go out and play now?" And he was like, "Okay."
Right?
So I did, but soon after that, you know, my father committed suicide when I was 8 or 9. Um, I had a friend die in a house fire soon after that. Um, I had, a stepbrother die of AIDS, and my youngest brother died at 19 in a car accident. All of these things, I realized at a pretty young age that death was kind of the flip side of the ticket to life, right? So
Mhm.
you get a ticket to come in, and then there's the opposite side of that when you have to leave at the end. And
Yeah,
so yeah, that was so I don't know if that answered your question, but
absolutely.
that's kind of my introduction to it. And from at least teenage years, I knew that I was going to die, and everyone I knew was going to die. There's many famous quotes about, Alan Watts, the only thing, one of the things that we have to remember is you and every person you see will soon be dead.
Yeah.
And so it's been, I think it was maybe a little bit dark for periods of my life, but on the flip side of that, it's been a motivator for me. So the ability to say, try to get as much done as I can while I'm here.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that early, like, experience, and I'm really sorry for those losses. Those are really intense kid experiences.
A lot of them, yeah.
And how has death impacted the story of your life and how you came to be here in this moment with Lily List?
I think the biggest impact was the motivational aspect. My mother said has told me multiple times that she was always worried I was somebody who burned the candle at both ends, as it were. So I
Mm,
always had full-time jobs. Plus, when I was coming up, I wanted to be a rock star. That was my teenage years. I left home at 16, and I played in bands, and like many people that played in bands, I understood the lifestyle more than the business of it. So, but I
mhm.
spent a lot of time doing that, and for many years of my life, I was working 50, 60, sometimes 70 hours a week, particularly when I was doing startups in the 90s.
Mm,
But I was also still going to rehearsal 3 times a week, and we were still doing 2
Mm,
or 3 shows every month,
wow.
and, it's been something where it's just been like, try to get things done. Now, I grew up in a sort of low income environment, and some of the things I think about now was people who came up with some resources. One of the benefits of, say, proper education at a young age, or into your 20s, is you kind of learn to build a garden that can be tended to, and you build that garden in a way where you plant this here because that's best, and you turn this over here and you do that. My garden was just kind of whatever grew. And so I ended up spending a lot of time just chasing after things and not really understanding prioritization,
yeah.
how to prioritize things, how to put effort where it was most impactful. And I spent a lot of time, my teens, my 20s, even into my 30s, just working really hard, but
Mm,
not working really smart. And so
mm,
that was just something not directly from the understanding of death, but that motivation to try and get stuff done,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm,
without that knowledge of how to prioritize things, was difficult at times.
mhm.
Yeah, yeah. I can certainly see that as a result of your understanding of death because there's this sense you gotta get it done, right?
That's
And
right.
we've had people say that the one thing they fear is that they haven't created their legacy yet, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I appreciate the band. I see
The
your
crazy part now is that the way I think of it is, especially, I had in the last 5 years, 2 of my friends die,
mm,
one very close music partner, they were both, under 50, and we had both of my wife's parents die in the past year.
mhm,
Um, I'll just be honest here, for better and worse, but my worry now is that, I don't fear death and I don't fear dying young, I fear living too long.
mm. Yeah, yeah, understood. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
I especially well, I my kids are always thinking, like, "Mom's gonna try to check out as soon as she gets a chance," like, "Kids, let me go. I'm so excited to get to the other side," and my daughter's, said it for years, like, "I'm gonna take care of you so you live to be over 100, like, you cannot go," and I'm just like, "I kinda don't feel like doing
No,
over the
thank you.
100 thing." Yeah, like, I wanna go home.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Uh,
we had my 2 friends, one of them died of a stroke and one of them died of cancer, and they were young and it was unexpected, but it was
mhm,
quick.
Mm,
And it was sad, of course, but my in-laws, one died of dementia, one had a myriad of health issues that really kept her kind of housebound and then chair and bed bound
mhm,
for a number of
mhm.
mm,
years.
mm,
And watching not only them go through that, but the impacts it had on family and
Family,
everything
mhm.
else. Yeah, that's been one of my kind of, I don't know, worry's too strong a word, but it's one of the things I think about. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think all of us, I don't know, I can agree that It's one of the things
Mhm.
I would like not want to have happen for my family, right? Yeah.
Mhm.
So, tell us more about Lily List and that work that you're doing, and yeah, exactly what people are getting from it. Yeah, I'd like to hear more about that. So,
Yeah, there's a few driving factors on that. Coming up with kind of this lower income status, I saw a lot of people pass, and there weren't really resources there with regard to financial side of things, right? There
right.
was like people die and they got a baseball card collection or the CD collection.
Yeah.
My brother died at 19, and I took over his CD collection and introduced me to Tupac Shakur and Lil Wayne and all of this music that I never would have listened to, and I still put on
Mhm.
Shakur today.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And but the real impact of my youngest brother was he came. I think I was 13 or 14 years older than him. So
Mm,
my father died, my mother remarried. They had Michael quite a bit after. There was four of us, the old Irish twins. We were all within about a year of each other, and then Michael came. But we grew up in a turbulent environment, and he really brought his legacy to me is that he really brought a sense of something bigger than the environment, something that was more important
Mm.
than the
Mm.
yeah.
he was a young kid, and you wanted to protect him and support him as he went, and so that was something that really impacted me at a young age while he had no idea about it, but that was what it was. And I think one of the big impacts of his loss, particularly to my parents, because when I was growing up, my parents had substance abuse issues. My mother met my stepfather in AA, and he had four kids from a previous marriage. She had four kids from her marriage, and they were both clean and sober and did everything quote unquote correctly when they were raising Michael. And of course, he was the one that ended up passing in this car accident. And so
Mm,
it was really impactful, and when he died originally, I was working in technology, and I built a website, and, friends and family would connect there, and we could share photos and do all of these things, and it was really healing and a really good outlet for
Hmm.
all of the people, so, that was 2003 when that happened, and I've carried that with me, and I've watched over and
Mhm.
over again when people without resources, the people right around them,
yeah.
they
Mhm.
kinda carry those people with them, they carry the
Mhm.
lessons with them, but everything else is lost. Now the flip side of that is even people with resources. My wife's parents, her father started showing signs of dementia just before COVID,
Mm,
and then COVID hit, and him and his wife were basically just set aside to themselves. They weren't
Isolation. Mhm.
interacting. Yeah, isolation.
Mhm.
And they weren't really interacting with anybody, and we saw that really expedite the
Mhm.
symptoms
yeah.
Mhm.
and make it a lot worse, and so by the time she thought, "Well, I'll try to capture some stories," he really couldn't put it together in a way that made sense.
Mm,
So I find that we're all left with kind of random photos and voicemails. Voicemails are
Mhm.
big now, everybody's got voicemails that they
mm,
keep.
Right. Right.
Um, but we lose that essence of who they were, what were the songs or books that inspired them?
Mhm. Ugh.
What were the
yeah.
things that were really important that guided them? And recipes are a big thing, how
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
that. So with Lily List, our goal is to really try to give people the ability to capture that before they go if they want to,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or B, we're just about to launch tribute pages,
Mm,
and tribute
Mhm.
pages allow families to work together and collaborate to then actually capture that essence and have a page that's out there that's not
Mhm.
the excuse my language crap that Mark Zuckerberg and everybody else does, but something
Mhm.
that's really focused on the individual.
Mhm.
yeah. Beautiful.
Kurt,
Beautiful.
I have to say, like, we've done, so many podcasts, but your story has me weeping, which is very unusual. Uh, and I want to bow to you because you have not only experienced so much diverse loss, but you've stepped in to help support so many other people
Yeah.
and creating this legacy piece because I think it is so true. Like when people go to a funeral or a wake or a celebration of life, there are those stories that are passed around, but then we forget how to like carry those stories for another little bit of a generation, right? Which is
Mhm.
like, I mean, our Day of the Dead in our culture is like that. Like I retell the stories, the very few stories that I've got from certain grandparents and uncles or whatever. And I really appreciate that you are curating a semblance of stories for people who really need it. And right
Yeah.
now, more than any other time, I feel like we need a story of our ancestors who have traversed through their stuff, right? Like,
Right.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate this.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
I sincerely appreciate that. The other piece is again, like with my brother, is how can we actually carry that beyond ourselves?
Right.
Mhm,
So I've got the legacy that he sort of how did he impact me, and what does that mean? But
mhm.
um, even though he didn't live long enough to have his own children and things like that, but how can
Yeah.
we continue to reach his friends? How can we
Mhm.
continue to
Yeah.
reach their children? How can they carry on? And so that's a big piece of it is that generational connection.
Absolutely.
So
Ugh.
that's where we are. And
Yeah.
yeah, David, I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
No, no, that's fine. That's so well said and so important, and I really
Mhm.
appreciate Ana Luisa your your vulnerability,
Ah,
and it is rare. I'll just mention that that's a rare thing for Ana Luisa,
I know, but I'm just like,
but it's
I
so
got
good.
goosebumps too. And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah,
what's going on? But truly, Kurt, I think that you are an angel. I really do.
yeah, yeah. I think you're doing it.
I don't take compliments very well, but I appreciate it. So
It reminds me that when we do our class on end of life planning, we talk about. I think there's actually in the Jewish tradition they call it an ethical will, which is similar to what it's sort of what you're talking about, but people don't know what that is and people don't think about that. And so I love that you're creating a space where people can just,
Mhm,
have the motivation and set the intention and really do the
mhm,
work. That's certainly going to go in our list of resources for folks.
mhm.
So I
Oh,
appreciate that very, very
yeah.
much. Yeah,
one thing I do want to call out before I forget, because my brain's old enough, I forget quickly right now. But
absolutely.
one thing we learned, so I came out of technology and particularly product management. So we did a lot of discovery, customer interviews, things like that. Death has really become something that people have to bear on their own
Mm,
Mhm,
these days, and it's really that's a really sad part to me. We've
mhm,
separated death to such an extent right now where it's like, oh, life is something that's shared and collaborative and all that. And as soon as you get
mhm,
close to death, it's like, oh, you're just stuck
mhm,
away in this bed until you go.
mhm,
And one of the things we learned very much, and the reason we built these collaborative aspects into Lily List is these aren't things that people want to do solo. In
yeah,
some
yeah,
ways, they don't want to do them at all, but if they are going to do them, they don't want to do them solo.
yeah,
And so I think that ability to really collaborate and use the people you love, the people that can support you around it. Again, Alan Watts, who I think in his personal life was basically a jerk, but he had a lot of really great insights
yeah.
into
mhm,
life. One of the things, this is the last album I put out with my music partner who passed away in 2020. We had some Alan Watts quotes in the first song on the album. And at the end, he says that, you know, one of the things that and I'm paraphrasing, but one of the things that's really important is the ability at the end of life to be able to give up and
Hmm.
find somebody if you have to that can help you to get to that point. Because by giving up, it helps you to really understand what life is really about. So
mhm.
Yeah,
dying actually gives you the opportunity to understand what life is really about. And I find
Oh,
that very powerful. So
very
wow.
powerful. Yeah, yeah, surrender. Yeah, that's
Surrender,
such a
it's
yeah,
right, and, like,
yeah.
leave all the attachments, right? Just
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
it's done.
Ultimately, that's done for us whether or not, another thing you mentioned earlier was that people do this solo and the other people that do some things solo tend to be the caregivers sometimes. So there
Yeah,
might be a caregiver, but they often are alone and need these resources too. So I think that
yeah,
this collaboration that you're creating is just going to be so useful and so helpful for people in many different spaces. And so thank
yeah,
you again. That's a beautiful
yep.
thing.
What are your biggest challenges with doing this? What do you find hinders this good work
Or slows you down.
or slows you down?
There's challenges on many fronts, as with everything. Again, I've always had this sort of entrepreneurial spirit with music, and on the humanity life side, we succeeded beyond our wildest dreams. The things that we learned from each other were, I mean, everything human that I've ever learned has come out of my music experience and the
Mhm.
collaborative aspects with other people. From a business standpoint, we failed miserably, and so I was always working, um,
Mm,
originally as a printer and then into technology, and I've worked for 30 years, doing websites and applications and AI and machine learning and all these sorts of things. For Lily List in particular, one of the biggest challenges I've had in my life is, again, going back to my early childhood. I didn't grow up in environments with many resources, and I didn't grow up in environments where you were told that, you were doing a great job, and there was a lot of that emotional support and thoughts on well-being.
Yeah.
Um,
mhm,
I remember to this day as like a, I don't know, 6 or 7 year old, and we used to have water heaters. We used to have to go in the basement and turn the water on to fill it off and then turn it off.
Mhm.
And I thought I turned it off and I didn't, and the basement flooded, and the landlord was down there,
mm,
and my mother said, "Go ask if you can help." And I went down and said, my mother said to come down and see if I can help. And he said, "You helped enough already." And like those types of interactions, you carry with you. And
Yeah.
so for me, I have to this day this deep imposter syndrome, and
mhm,
I manage it a lot better. But the way that I've kind of gotten over it is not to say I'm as good as everyone else, which is what everybody tells you should do. It's that I'm no worse than anybody else. And that's been something that has really, when you're in that mindset, you second think a lot,
Yeah.
mhm,
second guess, right?
Yeah.
So is this the right thing? Who should I talk to? This person gave me this feedback. Is that real? Or, whereas a lot
yeah,
of friends of mine who came up in different environments are just like, hustle, just keep going, just keep moving forward. And
Mhm.
so that's been a piece that's a hurdle. On the other side is, I don't know, America's in a strange place. I
Yeah.
kind of feel like we're moving into a second gilded age, in my opinion. And this, I don't want to get political at all. I don't really pay attention to politics that much, but the concentration of wealth, um, makes it very difficult to find funding these days,
Yeah.
unless, you really have to have that network to be able to move forward. And so to me, those are kind of the biggest challenges. The flip side of that, on the helpful side, is as a fantastic, wonderful woman, Shannon Smith, who's my co-founder of Lily List and much smarter than I, and we're like yin and yang. The things that I'm terrible at, she's great at, and so she's been amazingly helpful. And then again, meeting my wife, who I met in '89, we got married in 2000, but we've now known each other much longer than we haven't known each other in our lives. And having that support, that long-term support, I think is probably the number one thing that kind of blunts some of those challenges on the other
mhm,
side.
Yeah.
mhm,
Yeah. Beautiful. Well,
mhm.
you kinda done a good job of answering the question we usually ask next is how do you
Yeah.
take care of yourself? But,
Oh, if yeah, apologies
that's
if I'm
fine. No, no,
No,
no, no, no
it's
apologies.
a
You're
conversation.
helping us out here. But I think you mentioned this earlier, and a little bit. And I'd like to maybe talk a little more about how what does frighten you about the end of life for yourself. Is there anything more that you'd like to talk about in that regard? As far as I mean, what you were saying earlier was just that you haven't. You know, we've heard many of the people say this, that you haven't done enough, or you haven't created the legacy of your own. Right? Is there anything else that frightens you around the end of life?
I'm again, honestly, living too long. That's what
Yeah,
frightens me.
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to have 10 years
Right,
of not being able to care for myself, but still being kept alive.
right.
I'm a proponent of like physician assisted suicide.
Hmm.
I feel. I mean, I'm only in my 50s now, but there's days I feel tired.
Yeah.
I feel like I've lived quite a bit. I feel like I've lived almost 3 or 4 lives at this point,
Mm, mhm.
and that's not to say like I'm hoping to die or I want to die. I've never been, suicidal in my life, which is good. I think that there's again, that's how we've separated death and life. We've really made it something most people are fearful of, and you
Right.
guys have done a lot of these conversations, and maybe you can speak more to this, but it was interesting. I just had a conversation with a friend of mine who's in his 70s, and he's been having heart issues, and he's going in for another procedure. And I told him, I said, when I just sometime in my 20s, I just stopped being afraid of dying. I don't know why, but it made life a lot easier in some ways. But I mentioned that to him, and he said, he worries about his wife and leaving her in a difficult situation.
Yeah,
Um, But I think when I hear things like that and I hear them regularly, it's just another way of saying I'm afraid of dying
yeah,
because, as I said, my wife and I met in 1989, and um, I know she would have a difficult time if I dropped dead tomorrow, but I also believe she'd figure it out.
right.
Like life
Yeah,
goes on, people figure it out, and take what you can and live the rest of your life and be happy living the rest of your life.
yeah,
You know, life and death is a shared experience, but it's an individual thing at the end of the day. And so
absolutely.
for me, I worry. I really don't worry about dying. I probably have a little bit of fear of what that process looks like,
Right.
having seen it so often.
Yeah,
But beyond that, I'm not too worried about the death part. And I think maybe, societally, we'd make better decisions if more people were less afraid of it.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've talked about a couple times the kind of the stigma around hospice, the stigma around dying, the stigma about, you've got to fight cancer, and you've got to win against cancer, and this
Mhm,
whole, I mean, really, it's a big part of what we're doing here is, and thank you for bringing that all up because it's so
mm.
important for people to recognize that, yeah, this is a part of life and living. Ana Luisa, you were talking about pointing out the planet the other day for somebody, right? You want to mention
Yeah.
that real quick because that was a brilliant way of putting it.
Well, I mean, it was just yesterday when I was at a ceremony, and, I got to talk to the mayor's assistant, and he asked about what I did, and doing that little chat before the thing started. But his initial piece when I said I support death and dying in a myriad of ways, and he again recoiled a little bit. He's like, "God, what a depressing job. Like, ugh, like, do you have to do it?" You know? And I just, started on my spiel. I said, "This is one of my most beloved areas in the world to speak about." And, we kept talking. And then he said, "I just don't like it. When people die, it's like such a big deal." And I said, let's look around right now. It's like, the leaves are falling. Those leaves are dying. There's death around us. The breath that you just exhaled is a small death for you. I was like, people are dying every minute of every day. And just because we don't know them, we don't feel like the big, you know, like heaviness of it. But death happens all around us every
Every
single minute,
moment.
right? And I was like, the sooner you get to acknowledge that, the easier it'll be to like contain the really close relationships that will end up dying in the future, right? So
Yeah.
I think he did this like look around. It's like, oh my God. And I was like, yeah, everything's dying
Nature.
all the time.
Yeah, nature is the greatest teacher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Beautiful.
I think a big thing relates to that, at least in my opinion, is, the way that I think about it is my brother who died at 19 or my music partner that died at 47. It comes down to the death is hard and it's sad. And quite frankly, for me, what's really difficult is when our pets die and we have to put our pets
Yes.
down. That's
Yes.
because they don't
Oh.
really know what's happening and the communication isn't there. And
Mhm.
but so that's really hard. But when I think of my brother who was 19 when he died, um, I do wish that he'd had more life.
Mhm,
But at the same point, I wouldn't if I had to trade his early death for let's say the alternative is not having known him at all.
mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I am that's an easy trade. Those 19 years that I got with him and the
Mhm.
impact he had on my life, which is maybe
Mhm.
a selfish way to look at it, but
Mhm.
that is
Mhm.
worth a lot more than it would be to say, well, never having known him at all, because I don't
yeah.
know how I'd have turned out if I'd not known him
Right.
at all.
Such a beautiful way
Oh,
of putting it. Thank
that
you. Wow.
is. Oh,
Love
Kurt.
that. Very
I'm just
nice,
gonna
very
keep
nice.
weeping today.
Yeah, yeah.
So Kurt, when you're going through all these things, how do you keep yourself resourced? What do you do when it gets a little too heavy?
I just go away. I walk away. I mean,
Yeah?
that's the only thing
Or
that you can
or you
do.
play music?
I do still play music, not nearly as much, but it's funny. When my wife and I met, as a teenager and in my 20s, I was I don't know, wild, maybe even a bit overly wild, and what I consciously I had friends that were sort of going to jail for things,
Mm,
and what happened with me was I consciously was like, I'm gonna end up like these people unless I change. And so I consciously just started making myself not get upset at things. So somebody
mm.
cuts me off, instead of chasing after them like I maybe would have been want to do when I was 19, um, I would just slow down and stop. So my wife sometimes jokes that she thinks the pendulum swung too far the other way, and I can come across as not caring as much as I should about certain things.
Mm,
But honestly, when things get really bad, I was doing sort of cloud consulting work before I started Lily List, and if a day was just really bad, there was client issues, and I led a team of 20 people, and maybe there's 10 client issues in one day, and you're just on call after call of being berated and trying to sort things out. You've got to have that 15 minutes where you get up, walk away, go for a walk with the dogs, or go in the backyard with the dogs and throw the
mhm,
ball, and
mhm.
then come back. Again, that ability to disconnect, and because you can really get tunnel vision
Yeah.
into these things that at the end of the day don't mean anything.
Yep.
They really don't mean anything. And what does mean something is to get outside into nature and talk with a neighbor or talk with a friend or play with the dogs. Those are the really important things in life.
Yeah.
And it doesn't require a 2-week vacation to Aruba. It requires sometimes just 20 minutes. Sometimes it's 2 in the afternoon, and take the dogs outside and open a beer and sit out there and drink a beer with them. And that's what you got to do. And that kind of resets. It's like the reset button on the brain, and then you can go
Yeah.
back and tackle whatever you have to.
Yeah. Such an important thing to remember. Yeah, I think sometimes a 2-week vacation is more stressful. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You gotta
So
take a break afterward. Yeah. Well, thank you. That's really, everything you've shared with us has just really been deeply inspiring and moving, and we really appreciate you. Is there anything you wish we'd have asked you that we didn't get around to?
that's a good question, and not something I think about when I join podcast interviews. No, but I would be curious hearing just a bit more, some of the things I know I saw Reverend in your name, David, and um, Anna Luisa, if I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, correct me. But you know, how did you guys get to the point where you're interviewing me?
Well, that's a great story. Yeah, it seems like that's 2 people in a row now have asked us that, I think. Maybe that's kind of funny because we usually don't. That's great, I appreciate that. Do you wanna tell the story real quick, or
Well, I mean, we started out in seminary always talking about death. And then, we just have built this relationship where we can be very honest and open and curious about these conversations. And so when after seminary, we were meeting on a weekly basis to do some teacher to teacher, student to student learning,
right?
right?
Yeah.
And we'd almost always, Wakil, is that true? Almost
True,
always,
almost always.
something about death would kind of, like, bubble up, either
Yeah,
like, it didn't even matter, or, like, us holding space for the dying climate, the planet and our Mother
yeah,
Earth and the
yeah.
trees or a river who's passed, it's like so suddenly, I think one day I was like, we should just have a podcast and just have people talk about death and dying," and that's where we kind of started thinking about why would we do this? And part of it is that we're so comfortable with all aspects around the end that why not invite people to also share so that hopefully more people will be out there and think, it is an important conversation to have with loved ones. And if I am scared, I'd like to figure out why and,
Yeah, and
find
and
ease.
mhm, mhm, and the reason we kinda go through those questions is it really helps people, normalize this conversation in a way that
Hmm.
they don't have that choice. We were both in, interfaith school,
Hmm.
seminary. So we're both, I think you can say interfaith and no faith companions with people and grief companions.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and I worked in hospice, and Ana Luisa worked in funeral stuff. So we were kind of naturally comfortable. I guess
Hmm.
death positive is the way some people call it. Yeah. And so, yeah, we just felt like this is an important thing for people to start
Hmm.
to get more comfortable with. So that's,
Hmm.
thank you for asking.
Yeah, no, and I also apologize. I kept calling you David. I didn't notice the Wakil in front of your name. I
No
did
worries.
see also that when you booked for Lily List, it came across as David. So I apologize for calling
No
you
worries. I
Wakil.
go either one is good. It's all
One
good.
other question I have is, so given your focus on death, which I say not as a bad thing at all, but um, and I apologize also if I'm turning into the interviewer here instead of the interviewee.
No worries.
If you think about it, if you found out you were going to die tomorrow, is there a word or phrase that you feel would align or sum up where you are today?
Yeah. Well, in fact, my wife
Mm.
has a terminal diagnosis right now, and
Oh wow.
I'm kind of living. And this, we started all this, and we started classes and everything else well before that happened. So
Mhm.
it has sort of come into my life as a reality, right? And the word I come back to every time is surrender,
Yeah.
and just acceptance and surrender. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, kind of a yeah.
Yeah. I for the last month, in my on my morning walks, I have prayers. For a while there, Wakil was teaching me about Sufism, and so I was like, I'd have my wazifas, and they still kind of bubble up. Actually, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
there's one for today. But I wake up and I start my prayer time during these walks, and it's been interesting to me that the word attachments keeps coming up during my walk,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
so I keep thinking about it, like and I'll just, like, literally say it out loud, like, attachments. What are the attachments that I have to release? What are the attachments? And I'm I just figure it's spirit teaching me
Mhm.
something, so but, if I were to get a call today that tomorrow's it, I would be delighted. I really would be.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I think my kids always worry about me always wanting to check out as fast as I can. If I'm given a ticket, I'll take it. Thank you. Um, but part of it is that I think it has a lot to do with my theology, my spiritual experience, and that I know that I'm going back into the community of beloveds. Like, I have literally experienced that in prayer time and lucid dreaming and all these different ways, and so I know what I'm going where I'm going to, and it's okay, and I'm delighted that I've experienced this. I'm delighted that my life has spoken into other people's lives, and hopefully I will make an impact, whether small or long term, but delight.
Interesting.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a great word.
I appreciate it. I connect with both of them. Acceptance and surrender, I think, is a great way to
Mhm.
think about it. And then the one thing I say, Anna Louisa, that um, some people like and some people don't is I'm not going looking for death, but if it knocked on the door, I'd
Yeah,
open it. So
absolutely, and that's how
Open
I
the door.
I
Yeah.
totally and that's what I feel as well, and again, it's like this also life is an umbrella and it's birth and death, right?
Mhm.
It's not I don't know, I don't feel it. Like, it's really strange and, like, something to be afraid of. But I will say, Instagram Reels a couple days ago had Guillermo de Toro. Do you know who that is?
Mhm.
oh
Yeah.
yeah,
The
the
director?
movie director.
Yeah, and so somebody was, interviewing him, and she went on about, his movies, and they touched the very dark and primal aspects, and yet, like, he seems to be, like, a very nice and happy person, and I loved what he said. He's like and she said, "Well, where do you think this comes from? Why how do you hold that?" And he's like, "First of all, I'm Mexican. This is all of our lives. We
Yeah,
are
We celebrate.
joyful and we live life to its fullest and we celebrate death and think, "Oh, yes, there you are too. You're part of our life." And I'm like, "Yeah, Guillermo, boom, that's it. I'm
That's
Mexican."
right. Yeah. The good answer. Good answer. Yeah.
well, thank you both very much. Yeah, I love it, and
Yeah.
I'm so happy to have met you and to have talked with
Yes.
you. And
Back
if I
at
could
Reach
you.
add
out
a
again, Kurt, because I really I
Yeah.
th I
Yeah.
something is telling me that you and I have, like, a soul contract somewhere because I
Yeah.
feel like
I think
yeah,
so.
I've met you before.
yeah, I'll connect with you guys, and if there's anything I can do to support you as you go, let me know.
Yeah, but wait a
Yeah.
second. The poem, do you have your poem? Are you ready to read your poem?
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to read it. I sent it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can
not
read it too,
prepared.
but if you'd like to, it's up to you.
I'm gonna let you guys read it because my mother-in-law just died about a month ago,
Okay.
and so my wife is actually in England right now, which is where her mother lived, and they did a memorial service on Saturday, and that was the poem she read. So
Oh, beautiful.
the person that wrote the poem was the high school teacher of my mother-in-law,
Mm.
Mm.
and she was her favorite poet. And if you don't mind, maybe you can read it and tack it on at the end. I she sent it to me. I read through it, but I did not prep at all to read it. So
Oh, yeah. We can
That's
read
if
fine.
you
it.
don't
We'd be
Yeah.
mind,
glad to do that.
you guys run
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can stay and listen if you want, or you can sign out, but we would love to just go ahead and read it. Do you want to read it,
Sure.
Annalisa? Or, yeah, go ahead. And
You wanna
sometimes we
stick
read them
around?
twice.
Kurt, do you wanna stick around and listen?
I'll hang out. Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
Alright, so this poem is called Atlas, and it's from, who is it? What is the name of the poet?
UA
It's UA. Yeah,
U. A.
UA.
Fanthorpe?
Yep.
Vanthorpe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's from Safe as Houses, the Peterloo Poets, 1995. It's called Atlas. There is a kind of love called maintenance, which stores the WD-40 and knows when to use it, which checks the insurance and doesn't forget the milkman, which remembers to plant bulbs, which answers letters, which knows the way the money goes, which deals with dentists and road fund tax and meeting trains, and postcards to the lonely, which upholds the permanently rickety, elaborate structures of living, which is Atlas. And maintenance is the sensible side of love, which knows what time and weather are doing to my brickwork, insulates my faulty wiring, laughs at my dry, rotten jokes, remembers my need for gloss and grouting, which keeps my suspect edifice upright in air, as Atlas did the sky. Mm.
That's really, really good. That's really,
It's
really good.
really, really good.
Permanently rickety, elaborate structures of living. Yeah,
I'm like,
maintenance.
"That is love." Oh my
Yeah,
god.
yeah. That's
It's
so good.
beautiful.
So down to it. Really,
Mhm.
thank you so much. Well, we really appreciate you,
Thank you,
Kurt, and
Kurt.
we'll say goodbye. Thank you again, and we
Thank you,
will be in
Kurt.
touch. Yeah,
Yes.
Thank you
thanks for all you
both. We'll
do.
catch up soon.
All right,
Okay.
take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I don't
Okay.
know. I just ch I feel like there are so many Kurts in the world too, who
Mhm, mhm.
have gone through so many deaths and experienced, like, felt so many things, right? And I feel like this legacy work that he's doing is really important for everyone, but especially
Everybody.
those kind of folk who have felt like kind of on their own journey, and it seems so bizarre, right? Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
I
So
feel like
lonely,
he's
yeah.
kin. I feel like he's my kin for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Ugh,
Anybody that can get tears out of you is
it's so rare.
I
It's
know,
so
I know.
rare.
I love it, yeah. No, it was such a beautiful story, and I just really appreciate him and his down I mean, he's so down to earth, and he's just
Yes.
like, "This is just what I learned, what I'm doing,"
Yeah.
so how cool is that? Yeah, and we'll
I
definitely
just
wanna add those to our resources list from now on, so
absolutely. I just, I hope any listener out there who has a loved one, can get started on this because I do also appreciate that they're not doing it alone, which is
right.
what we tend to do when we want to memorialize our loved
Yeah,
one. Like in general, people don't have the time or forget the stories at the moment when they're being asked. But if you could just kind of curate the recipes and the songs,
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's so lovely.
It is, it is. Yeah, I think it's even gonna be a bigger emphasis on when I'm talking to people about planning because it's we kind of go over that, say that's a good idea, but to stop and say there's actually a way to go online
And
and
start
really
the
think about,
process.
exactly
Mhm.
what you need to do is it or just do it yourself, but just to really think about all the pieces that
Mhm.
you can add to that. So important. Wow.
Yeah,
We are blessed. We are blessed. We are so blessed. And I love
absolutely.
you.
I love you too. All
Take
right.
care. Have a great day. Adios.
Adios.
Grief and loss, conversations about the end of life.